Ayo, Fat Lizard Boy here. This is take 3, I'm gonna say. Yeah, I'm gonna say take 3. Uh, Fricked up take. Fuck, Dad. Fricked up take 1. My friends called me during take 2, and I lost that. I don't know how I lost it, but I lost that film. So yeah, if you're watching this video, go screw yourself. I had gotten to the 30-minute mark. I was halfway through with it. And I don't remember what I was saying. So, back to it. This is part 2 of my What If Deku Had Sans' abilities. And so where we last left off, Deku had just gotten into UA. Same for his brother. Because, god damn it. So, in this one, Deku has a brother called Kitsuki. And they're friends with Bakugo. Katsuki Bakugo's friends with Izuku Midoriya and Kitsuki Midoriya. I know that Kitsuki's name is just Bakugo's first name pronounced differently. So they just gotten in. Deku's, they gotten in and everything. Deku showed the letter to his mom. Kitsuki is super excited about this letter. He shows it to his brother about how he got in, right? Deku says, yay, it's good. He says, good for you. Now I'm going to go sleep. Kitsuki says, really? You're going to go sleep at a time like this? Deku says, of course I'm going to go sleep at a time like this. And he goes up to his room and says, now please don't bother me. Because if you do, I'm going to be very angry. Kitsuki says, when are you angry? And Deku says, good point. And he closes his door and he goes to sleep, right? Kitsuki reads the back of the letter, right? And the back says that they have one day to get everything packed up. Because in this version, right? The dorms were there already. So they give him an extra day to pack up for everything. So while Deku's asleep, he has one of his famous dreams. Wait, what the fuck did I say? Famous? I'm an idiot. He has one of his dreams, and like in part 1, almost all of his dreams he sees Sans. So he goes, right, talks to Sans. They start talking about some crap, just shooting the breeze and stuff. And so they just talk, right? And they're just talking, about what's gonna happen in the next few days. They start telling jokes and everything like they always do. Sans looks at Deku and he goes, hey Deku, what's the difference between... He doesn't say Deku, he goes, hey Midoriya, what's the difference between a snowman and a snow woman? Deku would say, snowballs, and Sans would look at him with kind of a grumpy look, and he said, never ruin another man's joke. And Deku says, sorry, but I just had to. Sans says, that breaks the code of puns. Deku goes, what code? And Sans says, the code I just made up. Deku says, alright then. And so they talk for a while. Deku says, I think I should be waking up now. It should be about time for my breakfast. Sans says, alright. Well, don't be ruining any people's jokes now. Deku says, Dad, don't count on it. And he pinches himself and he wakes up, right? Goes downstairs to see his mom cooking his favorite breakfast. Bacon. But not just bacon and ketchup. Sits down, he starts dumping ketchup all over the bacon, just eating it like a pig. So while he's eating like this, Kitsuki says, why do you have to eat like a pig? Deku, with his mouth completely full, says, I don't know, it's delicious. Kitsuki says, you shouldn't eat with your mouth full. Deku says, yeah, whatever. And he continues to eat. He then goes, puts his plate up, right, and he says, I'm gonna go talk to Bakugo, right? And he calls up, and Kitsuki says, sure. See you later. Deku walks out the door saying bye, and he calls up Bakugo, right? Bakugo says, "What do you want?" Kind of grumpily. Deku says, what's wrong?" Guy, you can't talk. Yeah. Bakugo says, "Oh, nothing." Deku says, "You sound like you're grumpy." Bakugo says, "I said it was nothing." Deku says, "Alright, so you want to go hang out?" Bakugo says, "No, I don't want to hang out." Deku says, "Will you please?" Bakugo says, "No." Deku hangs up, immediately hangs up, and walks back inside. Kitsuki says, I thought you were going to go hang with Bakugo." Deku says, "Hey, I was, but then he didn't want to." Kitsuki says, "He didn't call him beforehand?" Deku says, "Nope. Why should I?" Kitsuki says, "So that way you don't call him when he's busy or something?" Deku says, "Oh, that might be why he was so grumpy." Kitsuki just facepalms and says, "You idiot." Deku says, "I'm gonna go upstairs and sleep again." No, sorry, not sleep. Deku says, "I'm gonna go upstairs and play some games." Because he has a computer, right? So he goes upstairs, right? Shortly after he goes upstairs, Kitsuki starts hearing some strange, very strange music playing. So he goes upstairs, right? The music gets louder as he gets close to Deku's room. He opens up and says, "What is that music?" And Deku's there bobbing his head and going, "I don't know, but it's great." And Kitsuki's listening to music, and to him it's very familiar. It seems like he likes it a lot, right? And it seems so familiar, like he's heard it 1,000 times over. But he also feels like this music is very serious for some reason. So he asks Deku, "Hey, what's this music?" Deku goes, "I have no idea." And Kitsuki says, Why are you listening to music you don't even know?" Deku says, "I didn't even mean to. All I did was snap my fingers. God damn it. How do you snap your music?" I'm an idiot. So he says, "All I did was snap my fingers together and started playing." Kitsuki says, "Well, snap them again." So he snaps his fingers, and the music immediately stops. And he goes, "Oh, well, that's interesting." And so Deku goes back to playing his games, right? And he's playing some games. I don't know what he should be playing. I guess, what should he be playing? I don't know what he's playing. Just some sort of, reference. Let's just say, I don't know what the frick he's playing. Just insert some sort of reference name for a game, and that's what he's playing. So, 3 hours go by, he walks downstairs, right? And, Kitsuki is sitting down drawing something. It's an outfit. It's like a suit of armor, right? So, for this armor, just imagine Papyrus's armor, right? Except it's actually protective. It doesn't leave his spine open and everything. So, imagine Papyrus's armor, except it covers his arms and his stomach and everything. He's got a helmet for it, too. But he has that red scarf, right? And, Kitsuki says, "What do you mean, what am I drawing? This is for our hero costumes." Deku goes, "Wait, we have to draw those?" Kitsuki says, "Yeah, we do." And he shows Deku the back of the letters, which Deku never thought to read. And it says, please have your hero costume drawn up by before you move into the dorms." So Deku goes, "Okay, I'll get it drawn up." And he goes up to his room, right, and he starts drawing. He then falls asleep. And Kitsuki runs up there and wakes up Deku, saying, come on, man, we're gonna be late. And Deku goes, for what? And he goes, we have school to remember. And he goes, Deku says, wait, what? That's today? Kitsuki looks at him with the face of disappointment. He goes, you're being serious? Deku goes, yeah, for once. Kitsuki says, yes, now go get your clothes on and everything. Deku just throws on his blue parka, because he was throws on his blue parka and some black Nikes, right? And he teleports to school. And because it's so early, right, he teleports at the front of school, and he goes in, right, and he forgets his classroom. And so he's just walking around the halls, right? Because he's about an hour early. And then he stumbles upon class 1A, and he goes, I might be in this class. He walks in, right? But, no. He's about to walk in, and he sees his sleeping bag on the ground, and he walks over to it and looks in, and he goes, and there's a man inside, and the second Deku looks in, he wakes up and goes, and the man goes, who are you? And he goes, I'm Mizuki Midoriya. The man says, all right. Or you're my student. You're a student in class 1A, right? And Deku goes, I don't remember. Aizawa stands up and says, I'm Shota Aizawa. Deku sticks out his hand and shakes it, right? And he says, and Aizawa says, I'm gonna go check, see if you're in my class. He goes there and he checks, and he goes, yep, you're in my class. And Deku says, okay, great, because I've been wandering around for the past 2 minutes trying to figure it out. And Aizawa says, but now you gotta leave, because you're not supposed to be here this early. Deku goes, but the doors were wide open. Aizawa says, really? Isn't it for another 6 hours? School's not for another 6 hours, right? He looks at the clock and realizes it's about to happen in less than an hour. He goes, oh crap. So Deku just goes over and sits down at a desk and falls asleep, right? And Aizawa thinks to himself, he's probably gonna be he's already my favorite student because he doesn't make. God damn it, I'm an idiot. Aizawa thinks to himself, he's already the best student I've ever had. And he just curls up in his sleeping bag and falls asleep outside. The first person through the door is Kitsuki, right? And he walks over to Deku and he smacks him on the head, saying, you're not wearing a uniform. Deku goes, ah, crap, I forgot. Oh, well. And he puts his hood up and he goes right back to sleep. Kitsuki just lets out an annoyed sigh, sits down next to him. And then Ida comes walking in, right? And right after Ida, the rest of the class walks in and they go sit down. Ida looks over at Deku with his feet on his desk sleeping. Ida walks over and just starts shouting at Deku about how that's disrespectful to not have his uniform on and everything. So, while Ida is shouting at Deku is completely passed out. This time he has a normal-ish dream. This time Sans is not in it, and he's just dreaming of eating an infinite amount of bacon, right? Just that and ketchup. He's having the best dream of his life. Then Eraser comes in and tells, right? And so after Ida gets tired of just shouting at Deku, he goes and sits down angrily. After they all get quiet, Aizawa walks in, right? And says, it took you 10 minutes to get quiet. Took you that long to shut up, really? And they all kind of look kind of sad, except for Deku who's asleep. Aizawa looks at Deku and he says, hey, Zuku. Deku immediately wakes up and goes, huh? What did I miss? Eraser says, nothing, but please get your feet off the desk. Deku goes, alright. Puts his feet down, takes his hood off, and sits up. Ida then stands up and says, Mr. Aizawa. Says, Mr. Aizawa, why you should be getting on Deku about not wearing his uniform. Eraser says, I don't get paid enough for this crap to care. And Ida's very upset at this. And he's about to say something, and Eraser just talks over him and says, "Alright, class, now go put on your gym uniforms. We're going outside for our training," or whatever they do in the first episode. I don't know what it's called. And Uraka says the same thing as she always does. And so Deku stands up, right, and he walks down, and he puts on his gym uniform, right? That jumpsuit they all wear, whatever it's called. Except he puts on his blue parka over it, because he just loves that thing. So he then walks down there, out in training ground. And they don't make him go first, they make him go last and everyone, because he got the highest score. So for the ball throw, this is the only one he really does care to try on. So he grabs the ball, right, and he leans his arm back. He throws. He's about to throw, right, but he stops right before he lets go and looks at it. He stops and thinks for a second. He then puts one finger up with a look like he just got the best idea. He then teleports away, right, and then a second after he teleports away, he teleports back. Aizawa looks down at his thing, and he just, because he had a cup of coffee in his other hand, and he's drinking it, right? The second he looks down at it, he spits out his coffee and says, "Holy shit, crap!" Everyone looks at him, and he turns it around and says, "Infinity." And Rish says, how'd you get infinity? Deku says, "I don't know, I just teleported somewhere in deep space." Aizawa says, "Well, can I get it back?" Deku goes, "Sure." He then teleports back, saying, "Yeah, sorry, he got absorbed and it got pulled into a sun." And Aizawa just shakes his head, saying, "God damn it, kid." And then everyone else. So the only two people who got infinity were Uraraka and Deku. And then we go on to the side by side, right? And Deku having Sans power, Sans being the ultimate god of sidestepping, right? He just stands still on one side, right? And then it's like a massive blur of him. Just a massive blur of Deku on both sides, right? And Aizawa is just looking with his eyes widened. So is Papyrus. He's just super shocked at this. So as Deku is just sidestepping like a king. Then Aizawa says, "Alright, stop." Deku stops immediately on one side. He walks off. Kitsuki says, "How are you so good at sidestepping?" Deku says, "I don't know." Kitsuki says, "That's it? You just don't know?" Deku goes, "Yeah, I just don't know." Kitsuki says, "Oh, well, whatever." So on to the tug of whatever it's called, where these pull. So Deku gets dead last in that one because when they pull on his arm, he just goes flying. Because he doesn't care to try on that one. And the 50-meter sprint, he just teleports. Dash, whatever it's called. I don't remember how far it was. So he just teleports. And so, on every one of them, he either got first or mid-tier, other than the arm pull. The arm pull, he got dead last. So they pull it up. Deku got third place. No, I'm gonna say Deku got fifth place. I don't really know how to work it up. No. Deku got third place. Kitsuki got fourth. I'm gonna just say, I don't know. I don't remember who else. Just whoever else was in first and second are there, and whoever else was in third and fourth are now in fifth and sixth place. So just move everyone down. Mineta was in last place, right? Right, and so Eraser never said that he was going to expel anyone. He was thinking about just expelling him. But he just thinks to himself, everyone probably would argue and wouldn't shut up about it. He says, "I don't want to deal with that shit." So he doesn't expel him. But, okay, so after that, right, everything basically goes the same. The event where the heroes versus villains stuff happens. And Deku's on a team with, I don't know, who should he be on a team with? I'm thinking either Denki or Who else would be good? Dinky or Sugar Rush? I don't know which one. I'm just screwed. I'm just gonna say Dinky. So he's on a team with Dinky, and on the other team, this time it isn't Bakugo. It's Kitsuki and Kirishima. Yeah. Because I want to mix it up a bit. Kind of stupid. So Kitsuki and Kirishima hide the bomb, right, and everything. So Dinky and Deku are... Oh god, I completely forgot the whole hero suits crap. Alright, we're going back to right before that. So on the first day, right, they talk about that. And so so Aizawa says, alright everyone, go hurry up and turn in your hero costume ideas, right? Deku, realizing he completely forgot, says, hey Aizawa, I gotta go to the bathroom. Aizawa just yawns, says whatever. Deku runs to the bathroom. Sorry, he walks out the door and teleports to the bathroom. He pulls out his phone, he downloads some apps, right? Some photo apps, editing apps. And he just takes a picture of himself in his normal outfit. He basically just wears what Sans wears, except instead of flip-flops, it's not flip-flops, instead of sandals, it's black Nikes, right? So he just takes a picture of him, so he just takes a front-facing picture of him, and a back-facing picture of him. He uses an editing app to make it look like it was drawn, and then he just starts messing around with it, right? It's basically just the same thing, except he wants it to have a hidden inner pockets on the inside of his coat, and he wants it to be flame retardant. Yeah, kind of, whatever it's called. So that's basically what his is, right? So they get it, so he turns it into Aizawa. They get it made and everything. So he's just wearing his normal outfit, except it's all flame retardant and blast proof. Because he didn't ask for the blast proof, but they made it that because it's basically just normal clothes. So Deku's walking in with Dinky, right? And he looks at Dinky and says, hey Dinky, are you actually gonna fight and everything? Dinky says, of course I'm gonna fight. Why wouldn't I fight? And Izuku says, I don't know. So they're walking up, right? And Deku stops and puts a hand out in front of Dinky and says, hold on. He grabs a hold of Dinky's arm and he teleports up past 3 steps. Dinky says, why is that? Dinky says, my brother's on the opposite team. He absolutely loves puzzles and traps. Right? And so Dinky says, oh, okay. And he walks in. Deku says, wait, stop. And the second he does, Dinky steps forward. And it kind of a burst happens, right? A small explosion. But it wasn't like a big one. It was like a small pop happens. And a bunch of that quirk canceling tape wraps around Dinky. Right, then over the speakers it says Dinky is disqualified. Or whatever it's called, I don't know. Oh, they don't call him Dinky. What was his name? It was so curious. Yeah. So I don't remember his name. I'm just gonna call him Dinky or Pikachu. I might call him Pikachu. Because it's basically just a cheapskate Pikachu. So Dinky's all upset, right? He goes, gosh dang it. Deku says, Deku says, so you don't say the actual word? And Dinky goes, why would I? There's no point in it. Deku just shrugs and goes, whatever. And he says, I tried to warn you. And Dinky says, okay, whatever. So Deku walks through the door, right? And another trap goes off. It's another quirk canceling tape explosion. Deku just teleports out of the way. Deku starts walking down a hallway, right? He clears the second floor, dodging a bunch of traps. And then he goes up to the 3rd floor stairwell, where the entire floor is just trapped, right? All the way up to there. So Deku is dodging all these traps, right? Except for one. He doesn't realize he stepped in one. And he wraps around his ankle and he turns around, right? and he sees that this thing drops down from the ceiling. It's full of that quirk canceling tape. Deku looks at it, right, and as soon as it explodes, he teleports out of the way. Tape missing him. So he just walks over, dodging more traps, and he walks in there, right? And right as soon as he's about to enter, Kirishima jumps out, right? And this caught Deku by surprise because he figured Kitsuki would jump out. But no, it was Kirishima. He jumps out, right? And he's pretty hard, right? So he's jumped out and he's got his quirk activated. And he throws a punch at Deku. Deku's got his hands in his pockets, and he just turns his head to the side. He puts up one arm, right, and he uses gravity manipulation to fling him into a wall. And so Denki forced himself out of the wall, right? And, so he charges at Deku, right? Deku pulls out his hand, aims at Kirishima. I think I just called him Denki a little bit ago. So he points his hand at Kirishima, and he moves over to the side. Kirishima goes flying into a wall. Right, and just then a whole bunch of bones come out, right? And they trap him. Deku then walks up to him, yawns, pulls out some of that quirk canceling tape, and he ties with Kirishima. Kirishima is disqualified. So Deku then walks into the main room. This time, there's a bigger trap that involves surrounding the person and quirk canceling tape, right? So it's basically like it's not just exploded out from one area; it's exploded out from all areas. And Deku just teleports out of the way. And Kitsuki says, so he says, "Where's your partner now?" Sans? Because if you didn't watch part 1, you won't know why they call each other Sans. Well, but I never explained truly why, but that's going to come up in later on episodes if this does good. So, Deku says, you got him with that first quirk canceling trap. And Papyrus laughs and says, I thought you would have stopped him from falling into it. Deku says, yeah, I tried, but he didn't listen. Papyrus says, oh well, time for you to lose. And Deku says, I could just teleport to the bomb and touch it, right? Kirishima. Kitsuki says, yes, but that would be boring, wouldn't it? Deku says, yeah, but it would be easy. My neck. There we go. Kitsuki says, well, I promise you, if you fight me, this won't be boring. Deku shrugs and says, alright, whatever. So they get lined up face to face. And so there are cameras in the rooms, right? And the room visibly gets darker, but it's not like pitch black. And then the only silhouettes that, in this dark, it would be kind of hard to see them, right? But no, they would light up like a light was shining directly above them. You can still see everything in the room. It was just a lot darker. So they're all watching, right? And Kitsuki says, "I will beat you. I'll beat you, Sans." Deku says, "Yeah, right, whatever." And Kitsuki charges at Deku. And Deku holds out his hand, right? And he's looking like he's about to force him into the wall. So Kitsuki then immediately jumps out of the way. The second he jumps out of the way, a Gaster Blaster appears and blasts him into a wall. Kitsuki forced himself out of the wall, right? And he says, that was a good one. Deku says, yeah, that was pretty easy. You were pretty easy to predict there. Kitsuki just says, yeah, whatever. Whatever you say. And so he stands, and so he walks up, right, but he stops a certain ways away, and they stare each other down. All of a sudden, Kitsuki gets slammed into the ground, right? And a whole bunch of bones appear that launch him up into the ceiling, right? And So he hits the ceiling, right? He's coming back down. Deku forces him back up into this thing where a whole bunch of bones appear. Throwing him down, right? So he hits the ground. And while he's on the ground, he has to, a bunch of bones come at him and he has to dodge, right? Then 4 massive gaster blasters appear. They just start, just blasting him. And Kitsuki's dodging this entire time, right? And so Deku, after trying for a little bit to hit him, he gives up and says, "Alright, your turn." Kitsuki says, "What do you mean my turn? There's no turns in a fight." San says, yeah, whatever. So Kitsuki tries to blast him with a blaster and everything. Deku just teleports out of the way and he's teleporting. And every other one he teleports, whenever he's not teleporting, he's just sidestepping all of Kitsuki. I almost said Kirishima again, damn it. So he's either teleporting out of the way of all of Kitsuki's attacks, or he's just sidestepping him like the true Sans he is. So after a while of fighting, right, Kitsuki finally gets tired out, right, and Deku says, "Alright, my turn." And he holds out his hand, slams Kitsuki in the ground, slams him into the wall, into another wall, right? He's just bouncing him all over the room, right? And he stops, and he throws him into a wall. Kitsuki says that it's going to take a lot more than that. And then he says, "You're weak, you know that? You'll never be strong enough like me." Deku then says, I literally have more powers than you." And Kitsuki says, "Yes, but I am far stronger." Deku says, "What? Are you being serious right now?" Kitsuki says, "Yes, of course I'm being serious." So they start fighting again. This entire time, Kitsuki is taunting Deku. And for once, Deku is actually starting to get angry. He doesn't know why. So then he stops. So they start fighting for a little breather. Deku lifts up his hands, right? And then snaps. And then the music starts playing. It's Megalovania, baby. Megalovania starts playing. Alright, and this song that Kitsuki felt like he just knew right? He just knew, but he didn't know the name of. All of a sudden, right, it started to make him feel weird. He started to remember every bad thing he's ever done. Deku looks up, right, and so he was doing all this without his eyes glowing because he wasn't using that much power. So when he looks up, his left eye is glowing blue, and he says, "So, you want to have a fight, huh? I've been holding back this entire time, but god damn it, I'm getting tired of it." Kitsuki never really hears him cuss unless that's his part of a joke. So he's kind of getting a little bit worried. In this music, he keeps remembering every bad thing he's ever done. He hasn't done that bad of things, like he teased someone a little bit too much and he felt bad about it and whatever. He's remembering every bad thing he's ever done, including insulting and taunting Deku. And then Deku looks at his face and realizes what's happening, and he goes, "So, do you like the feeling of your sins crawling on your back?" Kitsuki looks at Deku and says, "I don't know what you're talking about." Deku says, yeah, whatever. And he gets the most serious face on. No smile or anything. One eye glowing blue. The other eye completely black. It's like it's almost not even there. And Deku says, "Are you ready?" Kitsuki says, "What do you mean?" "Of course I'm ready. I've been ready since we started." Deku says, "Alright, fine." And he narrows his eyes, right? He's in. So you know what Sans' attack in Undertale, his starting attack, right? Imagine that, but instead of like being up in the air, like all like so it's basically he just basically has to dodge Sans' his first attack in Undertale, all over again. So he's dodging that, right? Kitsuki says, "Holy shit!" And then a bone comes out of nowhere and hits him in the gut, right? It's throwing him into a wall. Kitsuki immediately gets flung out of the wall by a Gaster Blaster. Then Kitsuki goes to attack Deku, right? And he punches at him, jumps up, and he's about to punch him. And then as he's about to punch him, a bunch of bones appear and start flying at Deku. Deku, still straight-faced. A shield appears. It basically just looks like a Gaster Blaster, but slightly different. Appears and stops everything. Right? Then Kitsuki gets flung back. And he says, and he's about to say something, right? And then all of a sudden he gets flung into a wall. He then gets flung out and he starts getting thrown around the room like before, except this time it's a lot harder. So Kitsuki says, "Alright, this is gonna get a little bit destructive. What I'm about to do." And Deku's like, "Yeah, right, like you would do anything destructive." Kitsuki kind of feeling a little bit hurt and says, "Shut up." And there is this bone that appears out of the ground. Kitsuki stands on it, right? And he blasts the whole room. Says, "Let's take this outside." Deku says, "All right, whatever you say." And he steps on his own bone and they appear, right? And they're up in the sky, right? And so, since they're up in the sky, they're about to start fighting. And all of a sudden, a thunderstorm appears. This doesn't happen in anything in Undertale, but I'm just going to say, when Deku gets angry, extremely angry, storms will appear and everything around the area. So, they're now fighting out there in the thunderstorm. It's raining and everything. They start battling. Deku is not holding back. Well, he's still holding back because he doesn't want to kill him. I mean, he doesn't want to hurt him too bad. So they're just sending Gaster Blasters at each other. Then Kitsuki is getting angrier now, right? And he sends out a massive Gaster Blaster right in front of him. And it's just about to hit Deku when he teleports right behind Kitsuki. And he puts his own right behind him, right? And it blasts him. And sends him flying. Right? And it flies almost out of the area, but then Deku holds out his hand. Kitsuki comes flying, right? And he's flying. As he's flying back at Deku, he punches him right in the face. He's basically just clotheslined him, except with his fist. And Kitsuki falls back down into the room where the bomb is. Deku hops off the bone and teleports down. Taps the bomb. He then walks out. Kitsuki is knocked the fuck out. Because basically you're going at 20... I'm going to say he was going at well over 20 miles per hour. He was going freaking fast. I'd say he's going at like 40 miles per hour. Backwards. Not backwards, just at Deku. And Deku just went... boom! Stuck out his fist and punched him right in the face. Knocking him out. And then he fell... I'm saying he fell about... I'd say about 30 feet. And Deku, knowing he had survived this, doesn't care. He then calms down a lot. His eyes stop glowing. He then walks out of the bed. He then walks out of the room. He after checks the bomb, right? He then walks out of the room, walks down the stairs. And this time he's not in the mood for anything, and he summons a Gaster Blaster, and he starts blasting every single trap on the way down. He walks outside, right? And so they technically have to give Deku the MVP because Ninki got taken in the first 10 seconds. And the MVP of the villains team, I'd say, is Kitsuki, because unlike Hiroshima, Kitsuki actually did something. So that's basically it, right? The other ones basically go out, except for, the fact that Bakugo and everything was a little bit changed. So the rest go out, played out normally. Deku is just asleep, snoozing. All Might looks over at Deku, right, while he's sleeping. All Might then thinks to himself, I hope to God this kid stays a hero. Because if he doesn't, I don't think there's a person that can stop him. Now, so before this series goes anywhere, right, there will only be one other person that will appear. And I'm going to just say that there is only one other Sans. Nah, never mind. There's going to be one special appearance later on. So after that, right, Deku goes back to class, right? Kitsuki's in Recovery Girl's office with a broken. So when Deku did that, he broke Kitsuki's face, like he broke his face, his nose, and his facial bones and stuff. When he hit the ground, it broke his shoulder, his right shoulder blade, because he landed on his right shoulder blade, and it broke that. So he's in there, right, and he's in there for a little bit. He comes out, right, and he's wearing a cast. He sits down next to Deku, right, and Deku says, I'm sorry for going that hard. Kitsuki says, I'm sorry for angering you. Deku says, it's fine. They fist bump. The class goes on. Denki walks up to Deku after class and says, man, that was very cool. That was an awesome fight, right? And so, Deku says, yeah, thanks. And Denki says, sorry, I got out in the first, 10 seconds? And Deku says, yeah, it's fine. Better me fight him than you, get, killed. Denki laughs, says, yeah, me killed. Deku, kind of nervous, laughs, saying, yeah. Because Deku was being 100% serious, because Denki might have died if he had actually gotten to the fight. So Deku laughs it off, saying, yeah, like he was joking. So, after that, same thing goes along. Deku, basically just normal story, except Kitsuki's there, and Deku is there, except he's sleeping most of the class, only remembering a little bit. And he tells Kitsuki to only wake him up for the important parts, right? So Kitsuki only wakes him up for the important parts. And Deku writes those down with his great memory. And then after class, right, Aizawa walks over to Deku and he says, hey, Deku. Deku says, yeah? Aizawa yawns and says, Principal Nezu wants to speak with you. And Deku goes, oh, crap. And Aizawa says, it's probably not for anything you've done. Probably. Deku says, I have a feeling it's exactly for some of the things I've done. No, I don't want to share the image. So Aizawa says, probably. And Deku walks off up to Nezu's office. Nezu's sitting down, right? And so Nezu never got a look at Deku. He's expecting this tall, very strong man, very strong person to walk in, right? And he just sees this 5'11" guy walking in with a blue parka, wearing shorts and black Nikes. He's expecting someone about 6'8". He's expecting someone like that. So, seeing Deku walk in, sit down, yawn, and say, so what you need me for? Nezu says, I just wanted to speak to you about your score, right? And so Deku walks over and says, what do you mean? What score? I've taken like 3 things. I don't know. And Nezu says, I mean your score on the entrance exam. And Deku goes, oh, I almost forgot that was a thing. So, why do you want to talk to me about it so late? And Nezu puts down the score for Deku. It's really high, like I said. It says, on the written exam, you got just barely higher than me, right? That goes, yeah. And then it says, My quirk is just that I'm super intelligent. It basically explains his quirk, everything that he can do with it, and Deku goes, "Oh, that's cool." And Nezu says that they'd both like to take an IQ test, right? A professional IQ test, not one that just is randomly thrown together by some random guy on the internet. So they go through, they do this IQ test, right? Nezu gets his basic IQ. I don't know what Nezu's basic IQ is. Let me look that up. Not what Jat. Not OS. What is this? Not id. I'm an idiot. There it is. God, I hate Quora. I freaking hate this place. Okay, so I'm not gonna say that I'm not gonna say that Deku's IQ is just barely smarter than Nezu's. He is a lot smarter than Nezu. Basically, what I mean by that is that Nezu's about 240 or whatever. Sans is, I'ma say, Deku, sorry, is about, he has a 400. Which, you know, that's kind of batshit crazy, but, like, he's stupidly smart. And he basically shows this off to Nezu. Nezu is very freaked out about this guy's intelligence, and he goes, "So how'd you get that smart, huh?" And Deku goes, "I don't know, it happened after I got my quirk." Nezu goes, "What exactly is your quirk?" And he basically explains all the things he can do, and he says, "Also, for some reason, I'm smart, which I feel like should go to my brother." Nezu goes, "Why do you say that?" And he goes, "Because I'm lazy and I probably will never use it." Nezu laughs, and they just talk a little bit more about how things have been going and everything. And Nezu says, "Well, that's all I wanted to speak to you about." Deku goes back to class, right? Next day happens, and then it's time for the USJ. Because why the flip not? Slip not, crip not, trip not. So, it's time for the USJ, right? And so Aizawa talks about it and says, "We're going to the USJ." Mina stands up and says, "Universal Studios Japan, really?" Aizawa goes, "No. Unforeseen simulations joined that. I think that's what it's called. I don't know." And Deku goes, "Huh? We're going somewhere?" Aizawa says, "Yes, we're going to the unforeseen simulations joint. I think that's what it's called. I'm probably completely wrong, and I'm probably pissing someone off." And so Deku goes, So will I have to take tests there or whatever?" Aizawa goes, "No." Deku goes, "Well, then I'm perfectly fine with this." Aizawa goes, "You didn't have to be in the first place." They go on, hop on the bus, and they go there. Deku gets out, right? And so when he stands out, he moves. He basically just pops every joint in his arms and everything. And Kitsuki looks at him with the face of disgust and says, "That's absolutely disgusting." And Deku says, yeah, whatever. So they go inside. 13 is explaining everything, right? Deku gets this feeling of like something bad, something horrible is about to happen. He walks over to Aizawa and he says, "Hey, yo, I got a horrible feeling about what's about to happen." Aizawa says, "What?" And he goes, I just feel like something bad's going to happen. Aizawa says, "Okay, I'll keep an eye out." The second he says this, Deku's eyes are immediately drawn to the center of the place. That's when he sees all the villains. And he then says, "God damn it, I hate it when I'm right sometimes." Aizawa looks and says, "What do you mean?" And he looks over, sees all the villains, and he goes, "God damn it, why'd you have to be right?" So basically the exact same thing happens, except Deku doesn't get separated from anyone. Kirigiri just lets him sit there, right? And Kirigiri looks at him and is like, This kid seems stupidly strong. Is he gonna do anything or what?" And Deku just yawns, right? And he teleports away, and he teleports back, and he's got this foldable chair, and he's got a bottle of ketchup, right? And he's got some orange juice. So he's just sitting there sipping on the orange juice. Ida runs over there yelling at him and says, "Wait, you can teleport, right?" And Deku goes, "Yeah." And goes, "Warn the heroes, you dumbass." He doesn't say dumbass, but he goes, "You dumb idiot." Deku goes, all right, just stop yelling." He stands up, teleports, says, "Yo, Nezu, we got an incident down at the USJ." Nezu goes, "Alright, we'll send some people." And Deku goes, "Send all the pro heroes because it's a villain," right? So he teleports back. A couple of minutes go by, the pro heroes don't arrive, right? He says, "Where are they?" And Deku goes, "I told him that there was something going on." So Ito breaks out, and he says that. Breaks out, right, and he gets in contact with him. And it turns out that Nezu had sent all the pro heroes down to Universal Studios Japan instead of the USJ. So Deku is just sitting there, right, sipping on his orange juice, and it's about empty. Ito walks back in with all the heroes, and he smacks the ever-living shit out of Deku. Deku's like, "What the hell was that for?" Ito says, "You told him to go to you told him that there was something wrong at the USJ, not at the unforeseen circumstance. I cannot speak." Basically, at where they were. I kept on wanting to say unforeseen circumstance joint, but it's unforeseen simulation joint. So Deku goes, "That's their fault, not mine." And he goes back to it. The pro heroes are there, right? They're telling Deku to leave. And he goes, "But this chair is so comfy," right? And he just ends up ignoring all the pro heroes. Until one of them just picks him up in his chair and moves him out. And Deku goes, "Alright, fine, I'm okay with this." And just then he gets this gut-wrenching feeling. He jumps out of his chair, right? Spilling the tiny bit of orange juice he had left. He then runs back in and he looks down, right? And he sees Aizawa getting the literal shit beaten out of him. Right? And Deku gets very worried. He looks over to see the boat, right? And it's got Mineta and Sue on it, except no one else, and they're just stuck there, right? And they're about to be killed by all the villains. And he looks over and just sees just how bad it was, right? But the main reason why I got this gut-wrenching feeling was because he looks over and he sees his brother, right? His brother got teleported, I'm gonna say, with, I don't know who should he be teleported with? I'm gonna say, instead of it being Denki, Jiro, and Momo that were teleported together, it was Denki, Jiro, and Hitsuki. And Momo got teleported with, I'm gonna say she got teleported over to where Bakugo and Kirishima were, right? And so Denki's warns them all to get out of there before anything happens. For some bad stuff, so he can electrocute him, right? So they think they're safe, and he starts to electrocute, right? But it was just in the area of his electrocution, of his electricity, and it shocks the crap out of Jiro. But see, Kitsuki is wearing full-plated metal armor. And so Deku immediately sees that what the frick just happened to Kitsuki, right? And so he thinks that Kitsuki could quite possibly almost be dead. So Deku teleports over to Kitsuki, right? Kitsuki, there's smoke coming out of his mask because he has a helmet on. And he places his hand on the armor and it shocks his hand, but he doesn't feel it. He pulls off the helmet and like Kitsuki, he's got these burns from his neck down because his scarf was very insulated. Don't ask me what it was insulated with, but it just so happened to be insulated with something that protected his neck, right? And it went up into his helmet, right? So his face is not at all burnt or anything, but like from the bottom of his neck down, he's just completely fried. He's not dead though. Deku grabs him, and instead of teleporting him to Recovery Girl, he teleports him over to the hospital. And he shouts at the nurse to hurry up and get him into treatment and everything. So they remove all of his armor and everything. He teleports back, right? And Dinky, he didn't use enough electricity to make him go stupid, but he used a lot. So Deku walks over to Dinky, right? And he says... And he smacks the shit out of Dinky. Dinky asks him, why the frick did you do that? Izuku says, because you almost killed my brother, and you gave him a... I'm gonna just say that Dinky's electricity combined with the metal of Kitsuki's armor gave him horrible burns. I don't know if they should be 3rd degree or not. All the way down his body. So... Deku tells him this, and Dinky feels like absolute shit, and he feels horrible. Deku says, I don't have time for this, and he turns around and he starts walking. Right, and he's walking down. And see, because his hero costume is just what he basically normally wears. And everyone else is wearing their hero costume, so he's just walking down, right? He walks down and he drops, and said he teleports above the center of the USJ. And instead of, so before the Nomu comes out and beats the shit out of Aizawa is getting his ass kind of handed to him by some of the villains, right? Deku teleports above them, and he hits the ground with a loud thud, right? Everyone looks over to see this kid, to see him, right? And he slowly stands up, because he landed and kneeling down. Basically just a superhero landing, right? So he slowly stands up, right? He looks up, right? Second looks up, his eyes glowing blue. So blue that there's literally the energy foggy misty effect is coming off of it, right? And so he stands up, right? His head's looking down, and he flicks it up. When he flicks it up, a whole bunch of rocks and pebbles and stuff fly up into the air. He then pulls out his hand, right? And he grabs a villain that was just about to punch Aizawa, and he flings him around. Right, he then throws him up, and he hits the roof of the USJ. And he's just about to fall down when a whole bunch of bones just grab him and force him up into the wall. So Deku walks over to Aizawa with a whole bunch of gaster blasters holding off all the enemies. And he looks at Aizawa, right? Aizawa's bleeding from the mouth and everything. Deku says, you still got a fight left in you? Aizawa says, of course. Deku says, alright. And he turns around. And all the villains have an attack because the gaster blasters are aiming at him. Deku raises up his hand. And then he drops it down and he says, fire. And it blasts a whole bunch of villains away. So as the villains are charging at him, Deku and Aizawa are just beating the shit out of everyone. And that's when Shigaraki and the Nomu arrive. Right? And so when the Nomu arrive and everything, all the villains back up so Aizawa and Izuku can fight the Nomu. So while Aizawa and Deku are fighting the Nomu, right? They're getting kind of beat up, right? But then the Nomu grabs a hold of Aizawa's arm, right? And he spins him around, and he's just about to hit Deku, and that's when Deku teleports away. Right, and he has a hold of Aizawa's arm. He then grabs it, crushing the bones, rips his arm upwards, not ripping it off, but just breaking the bone to where it rips out of the skin. While Aizawa's going upwards, he slams Aizawa into the ground. He then grabs Aizawa's head, right, and he starts doing what he does in the anime. That's when all of a sudden, the Nomu gets blasted off of Aizawa with a powerful beam. And now this time, Izuku's eye, right, his left eye, is so freaking blue. It's like so blue. That's how pissed off he is. And he snaps his fingers. And because he isn't fighting Shigaraki, Shigaraki only just barely hears the music, and he's like, what the hell is that? But the Nomu can definitely hear, right? So he starts beating the shit out of this Nomu with his bare hands, flinging around the room, punching the shit out of it. While he's just basically fucking up this Nomu, Shigaraki walks over to Aizawa, right? Pulls off the eye thing, and so he says, well, Aizawa, and he starts taunting him, right? And he grabs a hold of Aizawa's hand, right? And he starts decaying it. And then he grabs Aizawa's hand, right? And he just rips it off, right? Because it's so decayed. Aizawa screams out in pain. Deku looks over seeing this. He holds a Nomu still, walks up. He sends a bone shard down into the Nomu's brain. He grabs a hold of it and he rips out the Nomu's brain, flinging it down. He now has the Nomu's blood all over his right arm. And it's kind of covering up his chest and everything. It's all over him. But mainly on his right arm. He then shouts at Shigaraki, right? And he shouts, hey, yo, hand job. Shigaraki turns around and says, what the hell did you call me, you little brat? He then sees that Deku's covered in the Nomu's blood. This Nomu was meant to kill All Might. And it could have possibly killed All Might. All Might comes in here to see that this Nomu, right? So he comes in right as the Nomu was fighting Deku, and he sees that Aizawa is heavily bleeding. And then the second, he also sees how Izuku just killed the Nomu. Walks over to, he sees what he says. Shigaraki then says, how the hell did you defeat that? And Deku says, I was brain dead. Deku says, it was easy. The thing was practically brain dead. Shigaraki just kind of has this dumbfounded look and goes, what the hell did you just say? Deku laughs and says, alright, time to get. And his smile fades away. He's got this kind of angered look, and his eyes glowing now somehow bluer and brighter than it was before. It's basically like a gigantic blue flashlight was pointing at you. Says, time to get serious. And he snaps his fingers, and the music starts playing, and Shigaraki remembers, and every single bad thing he's done, hurting Aizawa, sending a Nomu, killing people and everything, has come back to him, right? And he's starting to somewhat feel bad about it. Almost feeling bad about it, right? So Shigaraki says, Kirigiri, get me the hell out of here, right? And so Kirigiri goes to summons a portal, right? And Deku kind of chuckles. And then another portal appears behind Deku, right? And he dodges out of the way. Because what happened was he had went into the main base. Kirigiri had put down a portal that led right behind Deku's head. And Shigaraki put his hand down and was about to grab Deku's head, right? But right before it did, he teleported behind it, grabbed Shigaraki's arm, pulling down so hard that it dislocated his arm because it wasn't big enough for him to fit through. Deku then, while holding on to Shigaraki's arm, teleports like an inch, right? And that inch teleported him back into the USJ, right? So Shigaraki's back in the USJ with his left arm dislocated. Right? So he yells out in pain, he stands up, and he puts his arm back in, and he goes, you fucking brat. right? And Deku looks at him with this dead glare, and he says, "You watch your tone." Shigaraki gets scared for a second, but then that fear goes away. While he hears his music, he thinks of everything he's done. Deku says, and he stands and he stops. After a couple seconds, he says, "Well, Tomura, you're about to have a really, really bad time." Tomura is kind of freaking the fuck out. Like, how the fuck does this kid know my name? And he says, "How the hell did you?" And Deku raises up his hand, and he slams it downwards, and it slams Shigaraki into the ground, hurting like hell, right? And it makes a big crack. And while he's literally in the cement, Deku moves his hand over, and he's just dragging him through the cement, breaking it. And then picks his hand up, and he slams him down on top through a bunch of stuff. So Deku walks over to him, right, and his eye glowing blue, and he goes, "What's the matter? You look like you're about to be beaten. Come on, you're this big bad villain. Show me what you got." So Shigaraki says, "Kirigiri, get me the fuck out of here." Kirigiri opens up a portal, right? Deku goes, "Not this again." Lets Shigaraki go through, then teleports to where he was. Then, right before Shigaraki went through, grabbed his foot, throwing him out of the portal. He then teleported over to what's his face? He teleported over to Kirigiri, right, Deku? He then grabbed Kirigiri with his powers and slammed him into the ground hard, and then he put Gaster Blasters all around him. He then blasted the shit out of Kirigiri. He went back to Shigaraki and started proceeding to beat the shit out of Shigaraki. Right? And the only reason why Shigaraki was still alive was because, oh my god, I forgot to do something else. I am an absolute idiot. Fuck. So we're going way back to the first day of UA. So after all of that, right? And after, whatever happened, after Deku got the score, and after he talked to Nezu, right? Right before he left, Nezu says, "Hey, Zuko. Hey, Zuko." Deku goes, "What is it?" Nezu says, "I need you to promise me something." And Deku goes, "Sure, what is it?" And Nezu says, out of anyone, you and All Might are the only ones I've ever had to ask this of. And Deku says, "What is it?" And Nezu says, "Please, don't try not to kill anyone." Deku says, "I promise," right? So, now we're going back to the USJ, because my dumbass forgot something. So he goes back to the USJ, right? Back out of the USJ. And so now the Shigaraki is still only being alive because of the promise Deku made. And so All Might comes down and he stops Deku from proceeding to beat the further shit. What little shit was left in Shigaraki out of him. All Might then apprehends Shigaraki, right? And Deku walks over to Aizawa. And he looks at him, right? And he grabs Aizawa and he teleports him over to the hospital. Aizawa has multiple broken bones from all the villains he was fighting. His cheekbone was broken. He's got the same eye injury. And he's missing his left hand. So they give him a new one, right? They give him a prosthetic, right? And everything. So USJ's over with, right? Shigaraki is now in justice. So is Kurogiri and whatever villains are left. And the Nomu is dead because of Deku. Right? So Deku, his eyes no longer glowing, right? He's in class sitting down. And so the substitute, right? They have a substitute now because, Aizawa got the shit kicked out of him. So they're giving him they're giving him a substitute to teach him for about a week. During this week is before the sports festival. Aizawa will be there for the sports festival. So, while all that's happening, so the substitute is there, right? And teaching, and Deku's actually paying attention. Kitsuki, who is wearing these bandages all over his body from the neck down, leans over and he taps Izuku. Izuku's not wearing his uniform still, wearing his normal clothes. He says, "Hey Izuku, are you alright?" And Deku just goes, "Yeah, I'm fine," in this kind of somber tone. So I look up right at the board, and then all of a sudden, the substitute teacher gets a phone call, right? And the teacher gets this worried look. And it says that, no, what am I thinking? No, that doesn't happen, never mind. Cut all that shit out, I'm an idiot. So then, Nezu comes walking down the hallway, right, and he opens up the door, right, and he's panting, he goes, "That was very long walk." Okay. And he walks up there and he starts talking. He just talks about how Aizawa will not be here for the rest of the week and everything. And so after he leaves, Izuku watches Nezu walk out. And then looks out the window, right? And you see something strange. Some tall figure in a suit, black suit, with a strange helmet on, is looking, right? And he's just behind some things. The Deku could easily make him out. Make out the figure. He's looking, right, and he gets this horrible feeling from the figure. The figure raises up his hand, right? And then there's a loud bang. And that's where I'm going to leave it off. Because I'm getting tired. So, peace and chicken grease. So, bye, everyone.